All right. Hi, you all.
Hi. Hi.
I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speaker today. So today we have Diana Bartlett with us. She is a retired sales and marketing executive, and she has long been fascinated by purchasing behavior, now extended to the purchase of playing sports by a frequently overlooked demographic segment, older adults. She and her husband, not surprisingly an avid golfer, moved to the Hill Country about 4 years ago. Diana herself plays several sports mediocrely, but with verve.
With verve. That's exactly right.
Welcome,
exactly
and thank you so much for being here.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you very much. Ladies, I appreciate your coming today. We are recording this, but please feel free to stop me and ask me any questions. Now, I appreciated Maureen's introduction to me, but I wanted to give you my own special brand of introduction. As Donna knows, I ride my bicycle frequently around our neighborhood. In fact, I ride it so frequently that people don't recognize me if I don't have my headdress on. My husband calls this my headdress. So if I go into HEB, for example, and I see someone I know, but I don't have anything on my head, I say, "Oh, hi, how are you?" And I get that, "Oh, there's a strange woman talking to me." Look. So I am officially now Diana Bartlett, but don't worry, I'm not going to keep this off for the whole talk. That was just to focus your attention on me. So thank you again for coming. I want to thank Maureen Turner Carey for all of her support. I also want to thank Roxana Makarek and Leah Tatkenhorst, who also have been very helpful to me today. So I'm here to talk about my book, which is called The Elixir of Sport. Now, let me ask you, what is the most important word on this cover?
Play.
Wrong. It's renew. It's renew yourself in later life by playing sports. And that's the basic idea of the book, is that people go out and play sports and they renew themselves, they rejuvenate themselves, they revitalize themselves. Notice that rejuvenate, revitalize, and renew are re-verbs, suggesting that the person was already inside them to come out and be renewed. So how did let's see, oh, I gotta go here. Little area. Yeah, I got it. Let's see here. So how did I get started? Let's see here. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. So how did I get started? This idea came to me a couple of years ago. I heard the two of you discussing pickleball just now. And in the summer of 2022, my husband and I attempted to escape the heat in Little Traverse Bay, Michigan, which is far northern Michigan. It's a quite lovely spot. And that's where I started playing pickleball. And I was really struck by the fact, did you need this microphone better?
Oh, no, I'm just going to adjust this a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I was really struck by two things in terms of pickleball. First of all, everybody just kind of congregated around. Men and women, they just sort of wandered onto a court that was open and they just started to play. So there was no, here's the men's court and here's the ladies' court, right? It was very open and friendly in that regard. But the thing that really struck me was that the people were not athletic. Some of them were pretty old and kind of hobbling around. And I thought, what is it? Why are these people so interested in playing pickleball when they don't really have a lot of natural athletic ability, whatever the heck that means? I don't know. And so I started to think about this idea, and that is how the Age Defying Athletes Project, or ADAP, was born. And in regard to that, between the early part of 2023 and the middle of 2024, hi, come on in. I interviewed almost 100 men and women for the book. And this is just a summary of their sports and their ages. And you can see there's about a dozen sports that are represented there. And I'm not going to walk you through all of these numbers here, but you can see that the average age per sport ranged from about 58 for a woman who plays squash, all the way up to 88 for a woman who rows. So there's quite a broad spectrum there of individuals. The average age in total across all of these people was 70. So these are people who are average in their early 70s, let's say, and they're playing these sports. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about them. And they hadn't necessarily been playing for a very long time. The average age at which they began was 50 years old, right? In fact, 41% of them had not played any sports at all while they were growing up, men and women. I put them into 3 buckets. I call them the sports virgins, and that was for people who had never played a particular sport before. Someone who's brand new to rowing, let's say. I've had my prodigals, and these are people who return to a sport after maybe 10 or 15 years, 20 years. Maybe they played when they were in their college years, but then they stopped for their career and for their family, and now 50, 55 or so, they're back at it. And then the continuers. The continuers are those people who more or less for their whole lives have been playing whatever the sport might be. Okay, and they came from all over, if I can get this to go. Let's see here. Yes, I interviewed people certainly from the greater Lakeway, the greater Austin area, and from other parts of Texas, but I also talked to people from the Midwest, from the East Coast, from California, and also from Japan. So it's truly an international work of great promise. Okay, so I also had 5 people who were under age 50 that I talked to. My sort of arbitrary cutoff age-wise was 50 years old. I had my 92 people who were older than 50, and you saw their chart a minute ago. Here were the people who were under age 50. For one reason or another, I felt that I needed to talk to them because they had come to me from usually by a referral. And they were very similar in terms of almost all the aspects to the older cohort, except for 2 things. First of all, they were all sports virgins. So I have my golfer, my 2 pickleball players, and my 2 tennis players represented here. And none of them had ever done any of that before. Plus, as you will not be surprised, they did not suffer any injuries. So youth does have its advantages, although I think it's highly overrated. All right, so let's go back to the over 50 crowd that forms the bulk of the book. And I left all my books in my car. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That's okay. The first question I asked my interviewees, why did you decide to play this sport, right? Whatever the sport might have been. And if you ask 92 people why they do something, you'll get 92 different answers. So I tried to group them together in these 4 categories that you see here. And the thing that surprised me was that most people started a sport because of another person. So they weren't going at it for fitness. I did have my 10% are fitness related, but most people did it because of someone else. So I had Borden, for example, who was a 70-plus-year-old golfer. And he had never played golf when he was growing up, but he met a woman and they started to date, and she wanted to take him to the driving range. And he thought, well, what the heck, I'll go to the driving range. And he fell in love with golf, and he ultimately married this woman. And so they went off to have a lovely life playing golf, plus a variety of other things. Some people fell into tennis because their comrades at work said, why don't you come out on Tuesday night? I don't have a racket. That's okay. We'll loan you a racket, right? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So people related was very important reason for individuals to start playing a sport. There were the 10% who wanted fitness. Ronaldo was in his 30s, and he had never played any sports growing up. His family was first generation immigrant, and they put a tremendous amount of emphasis on academia, right? So no sports were allowed. And when he was in his mid-30s, his 2 sons wanted to go on a scouting trip into the mountains. It was 12,000 feet. And he said, no problem, we'll do that. And he said, I'll just start running a little bit to get in shape. He admits that he couldn't run a block before he had to stop because he was coughing and spitting so badly. But he stuck with it, and he made the trip. And he said, I was in the best shape of my life, and I decided I'm just going to continue to do this. So now he runs 1 or 2 marathons a year. He's in his 60s now. Yes. So some people wanted fun. They joined as a lark. And then one of my favorite reasons is the under 15% mixed salad was Langley, a 60-year-old golfer who had resisted her husband's encouragement to play golf for a long, long time until he finally said, it's the only sport where you can drink and smoke at the same time that you play. So she was kind of stuck on, she couldn't really do that. Okay, so these are some of the reasons for why they began. How did they prepare? Most people took some kind of a lesson and the other group did it themselves. So the goals were one of the factors that drove them to select how they were going to prepare. If they were, I'm going to play ping pong with my grandchildren every now and again, they didn't take any lessons. But if they wanted to compete or they felt like they wanted to move into a group of people, sometimes people move to a new location and sport is a great way for integrating them into the community. So if that was important to them, then they might have taken lessons. Of course, the sports virgins who'd never done it before were most likely than the prodigals or the continuers to take any kind of lesson. Golfers took lessons, tennis players did it themselves. I don't know why that is, but that's what it was. And then finally, a perception of sport difficulty. Probably golf is perceived as being difficult, so most people would want to take some kind of lessons. So they decided to play, they prepared to play. Now, how do they like it? How satisfying is it? Well, most people are very positive about their sports experiences. They fall on that far left end of the spectrum. They're very energized by it. Then I have my somewhat positive people in the middle. They're kind of muted in their response. And then finally, I've got my ambivalence way over there on the right. So I'll give you an example of a very positive. Tyrell is a 77 or so year old tennis player. And he said he loves his games with the boys because on Wednesday night, anyway, they break open a bottle of bourbon after they finish playing. So he is very, very positive. I've got a muted person, somewhat positive in the middle. That's a golfer, Jacinta. She's also in her mid-70s. By the way, all the names have been changed, so these are not their real names. I protect the innocent of my poor interviewees. Anyway, Jacinta says, I like golf fine, but at this stage of my life, I can't really take much of anything seriously. So she likes it fine, but she's not like super enthusiastic about it. And then finally, I have a golfer who is sort of okay about golf, and she's a good example of what I call an ambivalent. And this woman is extremely competitive, but she cannot get the hang of golf. She's like a super duper tennis player, not really that great as far as golf is concerned. And she told me that she wishes she couldn't care anymore, that she wishes she didn't care about golf because she thought that the people who didn't care about golf had the most fun, but they were the worst players. So she's out there somewhere. I don't really know quite what to make of that, but she's a good example of someone who's ambivalent. The thing is, they all continue to return time and again, whether they're positive, whether they're somewhat positive, or whether they're sort of okay. So that is the elixir of sport at work, right? Okay. So what are some of the things that drive this satisfaction, especially of the people who are at the energized end? There's a couple of factors. Frequency, the old saying, the more you play, the better you get, the more you like it. So, there's a certain amount of that in there. Format. If a person is more of an introvert, they do well, they're happier if they are at what I would call a solo sport, such as running or swimming or even bicycling, right? If they're more gregarious, more of an extrovert, then they like, tennis doubles, or they like getting together with a group of men every Wednesday night to play. Every Wednesday morning to play golf. my golfers were the ones who suffered the most from lack of consistency. When I asked them about, their comments about their game, pardon me, I just have to get some water here. I never heard from any of the other sports people, except the golfers, that they wished they could be more consistent. So the consistency thing wears on the minds of golfers more than it does on any of the others. So if they had a good day, and they felt their consistency was up, then they probably would have answered me much more positively than if I had caught them after a bad round. The women had become more comfortable with competition over time, whereas the men told me that was so yesterday, right? I've gotten it out of my system. I don't need to be competitive anymore. And they said, I don't know if they just told me this, but they said, it doesn't really matter if we win or lose. I just want to go out there and play, which I think there's a certain amount of that. And then finally, skill in stock market. I know Donna knows who this person is. I don't know if you other ladies recognize her. Her name is Evie Kerrigan, and she is the head tennis pro at World of Tennis in Lakeway. And she actually has a business degree. She told me that she thought that people were satisfied if they felt their general trend of skill development was positive. She said you can go up and down, right? You can have a good day or a bad day, and you can go up and down. But if you feel like the trend line is up, just like in your portfolio, which I'm sure we can all commiserate with these days. Anyway, she said if your trend line is going up, then you're going to be happier about your sport than if you feel like it's going in the opposite direction. Okay, oops, let me go back. This is a fun slide. Okay, so they're satisfied. What did they get out of it? What else did they get out of it, right? What kind of benefits and do these individuals experience? And most of the benefits echo the reasons that they went into it. So friendship was the most cited benefit across all of the sports. And this guy that you see there in the picture is part of a club in San Diego called Death Racer 413. Their motto is one step ahead, one step from dead. So it doesn't sound very cuddly. It doesn't sound very warm, but these guys have really bonded and they support each other. One guy had stage 4 bone cancer, and all of these skateboarders came together to support him as he was going through his therapy. So they're really, I mean, it's a heartrending organization, frankly. And it just shows you that the style of friendship can vary, but getting together around a shared interest in a sport is very important as sort of a basis for that. Certainly fitness is a benefit, both physical and mental. A number of tennis players, in fact, told me that one of the things they liked about the game, especially doubles, is that it reminded them of chess, right? Placement here and there, thinking several shots in advance. So there's a certain mental benefit that people get. Another woman told me that she felt like a kid again, and that's why that was one of the main benefits that she got out of being, she's both a golfer as well as a tennis player. And then getting out there. I mean, we talk about getting out of the house, getting out of, your rut, getting out of this, getting out of yourself, which is what sports, in a way, sort of forces you to do, right? You have to get out there. You got to compete. You may not like it. You may feel crappy that day, but you're out there doing something. So there were some discoveries. Aquamarine is a golfer who also had resisted. There's a sort of theme here of women who resist their husband's encouragement to play golf for a long time, and then they finally do it. And she was like that. She used to drive around with her husband in a golf cart while he played. She said she did that for 5 or 6 years, and then she finally decided that she was ready to give it a go. And she had something that surprised her was the sense of accomplishment. She said, I never believed that I could play golf. And yet she did, And again, we're not talking about masters athletes here. We're not talking about people who, ascend to the heights of any particular sporting category. They are your neighbors and friends and family members. They're people next door types. There was problem solving was another discovery. Warren is a swimmer. And anybody here a swimmer? Anybody here do swimming? If you know, one of the major headaches of swimming is counting your laps, right? So you're going back and forth, back and forth and forth. So Warren swam at a pool, which for a long time had little beads at the end of the lane dividers. And when he would finish a lap, he could move the little bead and keep track of his laps that way. Then they renovated the pool and changed the lane divider so there were no more of those things. But he pondered on this problem for a long time. Anyway, I won't go up there. And he finally came up with an idea of using old-fashioned clothespins on the pool deck. So when he would finish, he would move one over and then he would start going back in the opposite direction to keep track of himself. So there's lots and lots of discoveries and surprises, in addition to the benefits and the satisfaction that age-defying athletes experienced. Okay, so you got to talk about injuries, right? I mentioned earlier that the under 50 cohort didn't have any kind of injuries, but the others obviously did. And this is a summary of the cost of playing. So I had four different kinds of costs, as I called them. First of all, the biggest cost required time off from a game and some kind of professional intervention. Could have been a physician, could have been massage therapist, could have been a personal trainer, could have been anything like that. Physical therapy is quite common, as you would imagine, or as you know. Tennis players were the group that was most likely to suffer that kind of injury. The second biggest injury was time off, but no intervention. So yes, I did something to my ankle today, and I'm not going to play on Sunday, but I'll be back after that. So golfers were the ones who took that approach over all of the other kinds of athletes. Some people have an annoying thing, but they never take any time off, and they certainly don't seek any kind of medical intervention. Believe it or not, a woman who's a pickleball player was playing, she and her family had set up the pickleball net across their driveway at their house. It was a little bit of an informal arrangement, to say the least. And they were playing, and she was hit by the pickleball, which is, a wiffle ball, not like a heavy thing, but it hit her in such a way that it actually broke her little finger. But she kept on playing, and she never took any time off. She certainly didn't go to the emergency room for it. I'm not sure how broken it was, but anyway, it may have just been MASH, but that was her story. And then finally, non-sports related circumstances that block play. My 88-year-old rower, very, very good shape, especially for someone that she's been rowing for since she was 68. So for 20 years, she's been rowing. And one day she was at the top of the stairs in her house and she became dizzy. She fell down the stairs and landed on the floor. The only thing she did was to badly scrape the skin off her forearms. She didn't break anything. She didn't have any, thing like that. But she had to take so to give her forearm skin enough time to heal. She took, I don't know, 6 months off. So these things can happen. Some people go into cancer therapy. Some people go into other kinds of therapies. And so they take a few months off, but then they come back. Again, they come back because they feel like they are renewed. Okay, so let's see here. So what's in it for you? Whiffy, what's in it for you? Are you all playing a sport? Sport? Okay. All right, good. Then you're my favorite kind of people. Okay, so I started out my research by asking people why did they decide to play a sport? And I think the first thing you want to consider, obviously, is why might you do it? What might your motivation be? And this is a quote from a book by a famous guy who's famous in age-related circles. And it's, I don't want to be as old as my parents were when they were this age. Now, some of you are a little younger than that to, maybe that doesn't resonate quite as much with you as it might, but this is a new era, right, in which people do things and stay vibrant much, much later in life than they used to, right? So if you don't want to be as old as your parents are when they were your age, you know, get out there and do something. How do I decide? Are you an introvert or an extrovert? What kind of fitness requirements? Many sports like golf or ping pong, or even swimming, bicycling, running, if you know how to do those things, they're fairly accessible, right? I wouldn't start with a marathon. I wouldn't start with a triathlon, right? Think about the fitness requirements that are going to be necessary. Golf clubs are expensive, but you can buy a swim cap and some goggles for under $50. Is there a golf course close by? Is there a swimming pool close by? So what infrastructure challenges might you face? If you're thinking about the fit, make it easy to get into it, right? You don't want to add extra hurdles to getting going in an athletic endeavor. Okay. Oh, one more thing here. I said at the bottom, it's just coffee. You're not going to marry bicycling. You're not going even to go study with squash, right? You're just going to go out and try it. You're going to have a coffee and see if you like it. If you don't like it, no strings attached. Prepare. You can read about, there's lots and lots and lots of online print. I'm sure you have a wonderful section here at the library. We'll put in a plug for Laura's library now. Go and look up, get a book, look up things about your particular sport, or go on YouTube, a billion and one YouTube videos on how to do everything. Or go to some place if you're near a tennis court and you're interested, or pickleball. A lot of people are thinking about pickleball now. It's this sort of hot new sport. Go to some pickleball court and just watch, see what they do, see how it looks. When we were in Michigan and I started to play pickleball, I first went and kind of, what are they doing? I don't get the scoring. What is that? Anyway, and then try it. And then if you want, take some kind of lessons and learn more about it. And remember though, especially at the beginning, you're going to have a few bumps. So you need to be prepared for that, and develop some give yourself a break techniques. These are what I call, this is where, my happy place, when my ball goes into the creek, or when, my partner and I are losing in a 0-11 pickleball game, right? So, a technique that I like is, it's going to be another day tomorrow, right? Tomorrow is another day. I'm gonna do the best I can now, but I'm not gonna kill myself in terms of pursuit of this sporting excellence, right? And practice, practice, practice. You do have to practice in order to really get better. The more you play, the better you are. The better you are, the more you like it. Okay, so you don't have to take my word for it. If you're interested in this book, you can buy it online at Amazon, extremely economically priced, I might add. I'm just kidding you. But it's called The Elixir of Sport. But if you are like me and you're sort of a skinflint and you don't want to spend your money on anything like that, I have a blog called defyage.substack.com, and I do have some handouts I'll give you so you don't have to take any notes. This is our mascot, Tortzilla. He's a tortoise. The tortoise is the symbol of long life. And there he is, Tortzilla, and he's surrounded by all of his favorite sporting equipment. He's quite the guy. Okay, so that's all I have to say. I want to thank you all for coming today. And for those of you out there in broadcast land, thank you for watching this recording. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
What sport do you play? What all sports do you play?
What sports do I play mediocrely but with verve? So Donna and I play tennis together. We also play pickleball together. I play golf. And as you know from my helmet introduction, I'm also a cyclist, but not a racer kind of cyclist. I ride my bicycle anywhere that I can ride safely around where we live. Like if I have to I can ride to HEB, for example. I can ride over to the tennis courts. I can, things like that. I will go by bicycle rather than having to drive. I've been a bicyclist for a very long time. I do swim as well. So I try to, keep a well-rounded outlook. But that's just me. When I retired, I thought I want to spend my time playing sports. I want to play, right? So that's what I do. Other people have much more, much more serious pursuits than I do. Other questions? No? All right, ladies. Well, thank you all very much. I'm going to pass out my handouts here. It's got all the news that's fit to print. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. And if you have questions or think of anything you want to ask me about, please, my email address is on there, and you are you're welcome to email me.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate your time today. I know you have a lot of other things to do. Okay. So let's see here.
I can stop.
You're gonna to end slideshow.
Maybe I'll see. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Bye. Bye. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.